Hey everyone, welcome back to another video for the channel. If you've been following the motorcycle world for a while, you're probably already feeling it. Something is shifting. Chinese brands are no longer that option people mentioned in hushed tones, that second-tier alternative you picked up when the budget didn't stretch far enough for a Japanese bike. No. Today, in 2026, Chinese brands are rewriting the rules of the game at a pace that Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki simply didn't see coming. And right at the center of this absolute revolution, there's one name that's turning heads across Latin America, Europe, Asia, and basically every corner of the planet where a rider is looking for a smart machine. The brand new and stunning CFlite 250 Dual. That's why today, guys, we're breaking down the 7 reasons why this bike could be the best purchase you make right now. So if you're someone who truly loves two wheels and makes decisions with both your head and your heart, this video is for you. Grab yourself a great cup of coffee, get comfortable, and stay with us all the way to the end. Reason number 1, a sub-brand with prestige and a proven track record. The first thing you need to know is that CFlite is not a brand that came out of nowhere. CFlite is the entry-level sub-brand of CF Moto, one of the largest and most important motorcycle manufacturers on the planet right now. While CF Moto continues pushing into premium territory with machines like the 800 MTX, the 675 NK, and the jaw-dropping 1000 MTX, they created CFlite with a very specific mission: to bring real, tested, quality technology to the markets where price matters. And that changes everything, because we're not talking about a cheap, generic Chinese brand with no history and no infrastructure. We're talking about a company with decades of experience building engines, with world-class production lines and engineering standards already validated on higher displacement machines. The CFlite 250 Dual is not a blind bet. It's the result of taking all that accumulated knowledge and applying it to an entry-level motorcycle. That's backing. That's the difference. And in today's market, that is worth an enormous amount. Reason number 2, an engine that does what it's supposed to do, and does it well. Let's get into the technical side. The heart of the CFlite 250 Dual is a 249 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine, 4-stroke, liquid-cooled, SOHC distribution, and electronic fuel injection. That package delivers 24 horsepower at 8,000 revolutions per minute and a peak torque of 22.5 Newton-meters at 7,000 revolutions per minute. Now here's the key point that a lot of people miss when they're analyzing a bike in this segment. Liquid cooling is a massive advantage over the air cooling that many direct competitors still rely on. Why? Because liquid cooling keeps the engine temperature stable under extreme working conditions, whether you're crawling through city traffic or grinding up a long hill with a full load. That translates directly into greater engine durability, better fuel efficiency, and less internal component wear over the long run. On top of that, the electronic fuel injection guarantees a clean, precise throttle response across the entire power range. And when you add a balancer shaft to minimize vibrations, plus a clutch engineered for smooth transitions, you've got a mechanical package that isn't trying to impress on paper. It's built to perform in the real world. And that's exactly what a mixed-use motorcycle needs. The chassis setup that changes everything in its segment. A dual sport motorcycle is defined by its chassis just as much as its engine, and this is where the CFlite 250 Dual plays a card that very few of its direct rivals can match. The combination of a 21-inch front wheel and an 18-inch rear wheel is not a styling choice. It's the classic, proven configuration of true enduro and trail machines. That relationship between the two diameters gives the bike the ability to roll with stability and control over rough terrain, allowing the front wheel to clear obstacles with far greater ease. Ground clearance comes in at 250 millimeters, which gives it real margin to tackle dirt roads, trails, light mud, and everything that the urban and rural reality of Latin American countries can throw at you. For the front suspension, CFlite went with an inverted telescopic fork from Yuan with 160 millimeters of travel, and out back there's a central hydraulic monoshock. This setup is neither over-engineered nor underdone. It's calibrated precisely for the riding profile this motorcycle is built for. And with a dry weight of approximately 154 kilograms, the balance between mass and geometry makes it nimble in the city without losing its composure the moment the pavement ends and the adventure begins. Reason number 4. Brakes that give you confidence, not a scare. Active safety is one of the most underrated factors when people evaluate an entry-level motorcycle. And it's precisely in that area where the CFlite 250 Dual outperforms several alternatives in its segment. The braking system features a 265mm floating front disc with a twin-piston caliper and a 220mm rear disc with a single-piston caliper. Both are connected to a dual-channel ABS system. This matters. Dual-channel ABS acts independently on each wheel, which means that if you brake hard on wet asphalt, gravel, or packed dirt, the system will modulate braking pressure individually on each axle to prevent lockup and keep the bike under control. On a dual sport that moves between city and countryside, where surface conditions change constantly and unpredictably, dual-channel ABS is not a luxury. It's a necessity. The fact that a motorcycle in this price range includes it as standard equipment says a great deal about CFlite's intentions with this product. They're not cutting corners where it matters most, and that deserves credit. Reason number 5. Everyday technology that makes a difference every single day. The CFlite 250 Dual doesn't come loaded with premium or cutting-edge electronics, and that's perfectly fine because it was never trying to be that kind of bike. What it does bring is exactly the equipment a rider in this segment needs for their daily life. The instrument cluster is a high-visibility LCD panel that displays all the relevant information clearly and without clutter. Speedometer, odometer, fuel indicator, engine temperature, and more. The lighting is full LED, both the front headlight and the rear taillights, which means better visibility for the rider and better visibility of the rider to everyone else on the road, day and night. And here's a detail that might seem small but makes an enormous difference in real life. The bike includes both USB and USB-C charging ports. In a world where your phone is your GPS, your camera, and your lifeline, being able to charge your devices on the go without any additional accessories is a genuine practical advantage, not just a cosmetic one. On top of that, the fuel tank holds 13 liters, which combined with the efficient consumption of the electronic fuel injection engine, gives it a very respectable real-world range for mixed urban and rural use. Reason number 6. The futuristic design that turns heads at every red light. Let's talk about looks, because the CFlite 250 Dual has something that entry-level motorcycles rarely have: a visual identity of its own. Its design draws direct inspiration from CF Moto's adventure spirit, with a sleek aerodynamic bodywork that doesn't read as entry-level at all. It reads as upper mid-range. The lines are aggressive and clean, with that balance between functionality and presence that makes the bike look bigger than it actually is. The front fairing with its integrated LED headlight gives it an imposing, commanding face. The riding position is upright and comfortable, with a high handlebar that improves your field of vision and reduces fatigue on longer rides, without sacrificing control when the road gets technical. The available color options are also a strong call: polar white, tundra gray, and lime green. Choices that generate real presence in its target market. This bike looks good standing still, looks good rolling, and looks great in a photo. And in the age of digital content and social media, that matters. A lot more than many manufacturers seem to understand. Reason number 7. The price that justifies everything. And here we are, the most important reason, the one that changes the entire equation. The one that makes this motorcycle not just interesting, but outright disruptive. The CFlite 250 Dual launched in the European market at around €3,000. And that is dramatically cheaper than its direct rivals. Now think about that. For that price, you get liquid cooling, electronic fuel injection, a long travel inverted fork, dual-channel ABS, 21 and 18-inch wheels, a 265mm floating disc, full LED lighting, an LCD instrument cluster, USB and USB-C charging ports, and a genuine dual-sport geometry. Compare that against the Yamaha XTZ 250 or the Honda XR 300L, which cost significantly more and deliver fewer features, running on technology that hasn't evolved in years. Or compare it against the Suzuki V-Strom 250, which has its merits but exceeds this budget in several markets. The CFlite 250 Dual is not competing on price to seem cheap. It's competing on price to prove that affordable and good are no longer opposing concepts when a Chinese brand gets it right. And right here, they are getting it right. Bottom line, guys, China has arrived and it's here to stay. And when you look at the full picture, what you have in front of you is not just a motorcycle. It's the evolution of a Chinese brand that is doing everything in its power to compete on design, quality, and price. CF Moto and its sub-brand CFlite are sending a very clear message to the two-wheeled world, that the Chinese industry has matured, that the technology is now up to the standard, and that price remains their most powerful weapon. The CFlite 250 Dual is not perfect, no motorcycle is, but when it comes to the balance between what it offers and what it costs, it is very hard to find an argument against it that holds up against real data. If you're at that point where you're looking for your first adventure bike, or where you want to make the jump from a scooter or a city bike into the dual sport world without mortgaging 2 years of your salary, this motorcycle deserves a spot on your shortlist. The world of motorcycles is changing, and you are part of that change. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe, share this content with someone who's out there looking for a bike, and drop a comment down below. Ride safe, and we'll see you in the next one.